Hello, this is Lino Tadros again, and in the next few videos, what I would like to concentrate on is how to use the Azure AI Foundry prompt flow. But if you need to be in total control of what gets executed, instead of using the LLM node, we're going to do everything in Python. That means we're going to use the Azure OpenAIConnection directly, and also another video we'll use LangChain, and another one we will use semantic kernel to see how we can have a full control of how the LLM is being invoked from inside of there. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, there we are. I would like to create a brand new flow, and we'll make it just a standard flow is fine with me. I'm going to call this one direct flow. It means I want to go against my LLM in the code itself without using the LLM node itself. All right, we'll say create this guy. Will take a few seconds and it will give me the regular input, joke, and echo that we always have tried before. I actually do not want to have any of this stuff. So I'm going to go to the joke for the LLM. I'm going to delete this guy out of there. And for the echo for the Python code, I'm going to delete that as well. And now I have a completely brand new slate. So I know that I'm going to be asking a question. So let's change. I usually like to change the name from topic to question, but again, you can leave it. It's not a big deal. And then I'm going to ask a question. I know the question will be, why is the sky blue? Alrighty. So let's go ahead and ask that question in English. There you go. And then the output, instead of a joke, this will be a regular output. All right, we're good. And we know right now we're going to have to change that later on, but let's save this for right now. So what I'm interested in is not to use an LLM in here. I want to do everything in code. So for me to be able to do that, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I already have an AI, an OpenAI in Azure that has been deployed. If I click on my management center right there, see, these are all my resources. The first one in there with that very long name, that is my Azure OpenAI. There is no reason for me to actually come in and say new connection and then create another Azure OpenAI service or a direct OpenAI, as you can see in here. I don't need to do that. Of course, if you need to have another one, maybe you're going against Anthropic or Grok or Gemini, or you want to do that, that's great. But if you're going against Azure OpenAI, remember that you already have a connection. I can just use that connection in my Python code itself. Sounds good? So let's go ahead and click on this one. I'm going to steal this from here. The one thing that we're really interested in about this OpenAI connection, I need the URL, the endpoint, which is right there. I don't have to copy it because the system will know what it is already. Of course, I need the API key. And another thing that you don't see in here, I'm going to need the version number of the API as well, which already is embedded inside of that specific resource. So that's not a problem. So let's go ahead and see how we can use that. Let's go back to our project and we'll go prompt flow, and we will go to the prompt flow we just created. And now I'm going to go to Python. First of all, let me go ahead and start a compute session. So while we're working, this guy might take a minute or two to start a compute session for us to be able to use it. So let me click on Python, and I'm going to call this one, we'll call it direct LLM. Alrighty, and we'll say add. All right, it automatically gives you like a cookie cutter. It says from prompt flow import tool. That is always going to be needed, by the way, because this add tool in here, everything in prompt flow, whenever you write code, is expected to be an execution of a tool. It's an AI tool that will be available for you. So always don't forget that add tool before your functions that you're creating in here. And right now it's saying, I'm going to actually give you an input one as a string, and I'm going to give you an output as a string as well, and just saying hello. Of course, that's not what we want. So we need to do something a little bit more interesting. So yes, we are going to get the input one to be a string, but I need to also get the Azure OpenAI connection I just told you about a few seconds ago. So I'm going to put a comma in here, and we'll say, give it whatever name, we'll call it connection. And the type of the connection needs to be Azure OpenAI connection. All right, well, how are we going to have access to this guy? Well, I don't have access to this guy right now, so I need to bring in definitely a library in Python to be able to use that. So go right underneath this import tool, and we'll go ahead and say from promflow.connections, import Azure OpenAI connection. If you're not using an Azure OpenAI connection, you want to go directly against OpenAI, there is another one. It's still promflow connection, import, and then you say OpenAI connection. There is a lot of custom connections as well that you can go against Anthropic and Grok and Gemini and all Llama stuff, no problem. Okay, but I want to go against Azure OpenAI connection. And this is now being passed in here as well. All right, let me go ahead and get rid of this hello thing. We're not going to use that. We'll say goodbye to you. And now inside of this function, the first thing I would like to do is to create a client. But to be able to do that, there is another library that I need to bring in. And that will say from OpenAI import Azure OpenAI. Okay. So once I do that, I will have access to the full power of the Azure OpenAI inside of the OpenAI itself. Notice I'm not using any orchestrator like semantic kernel or LangChain. I will be using that later on. But for right now, I'm going against directly what's available and have been already in my requirements.txt file that is available inside of Microsoft Azure AI Foundry promflow. Alrighty? All right, so where do we go from here? Let me go in here, and then I usually like to create a client, all right? Give it that's the name of my variable. And I'm gonna say Azure OpenAI. That's the guy we just imported right here, all righty? Inside of that constructor, I need to pass several things. First of all, I need to pass the API key, the API version, and the Azure endpoint itself. There is a way to do all of them together by saying Azure _ deployment, pass the name of the deployment, but again, I can just pass them one by one. So it's up to you. I actually like to do it this way by saying API _ key, okay, equals, and I don't have to specify the key. I don't want to show it in my code. But remember, it's going to be passed to me by the connection being passed to me right there, okay, the connection. So when I say validate and parse input, it's not going to be only input 1 here at the bottom. It will be input 1 and Azure OpenAI connection where I can choose my connection automatically. So I don't have to show my key or my version number or anything. So this is great and pretty secured. Everything is in the key vault as far as all your secrets, and that will not change. So we'll say API key, we'll say con.api _ key. There you go. And then the second one, we'll say API _ base. Actually, they changed that in the latest version. It's not called _base anymore. If you're using OpenAI, yes. If you're using Azure OpenAI, it is not called API. As of 1.0, that stopped working, so it's going to be called Azure _endpoint for Azure, only for Azure, okay? And then we're going to say this is con dot, and it's called API _ base. And then the final one is the version number. Of course, if you don't pass it and run this, you're going to get an error. And the error will be very meaningful. We'll tell you API version has to be passed to your Azure OpenAI. So you will know exactly what you're missing, because there is not a lot of documentation out there to tell you exactly how to do it at the time of writing or producing this video. So the final one will say API _ version, and we'll say it's going to be coming from the connection API _ version. All right, excellent. So we have the API key, we have the version, we have the endpoint. This client now, once this is executed, I would be able to access it automatically, and I'm ready to go. The only thing now is that I need to go ahead and set the completion. So I'm going to say, give it whatever name you want. I'm going to call it completion in there. And we'll say, I would like to pass in my message. So I'm going to say client, which I just got, .chat, .completions with an S, .create. Let me open up a parentheses in here. This has changed so many times in the last maybe 12 months or so. It used to be client.chat.create, client.completion.create. Now it has to be client.chat.completions.create. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. Of course, you can go to the GitHub and see all the changes that happened over the 12 months, how this all have been changing. Same thing with LangChain and semantic kernel. It changes so fast. So by the time maybe you get this, just remember, if this does not work for you, just take the error and put it into Bing or Google, and it will tell you what the new way of calling it, because this changes so much in the last 12 months. All right, so in the create in here, I just need two things. I need the model that I would like to use, and I need the messages array. If you would like to change the system message, if you would like to change the user. So for me, I'm going to say messages equals, and we will have to create an array. And inside of the array, we will open up a bracket, and in this bracket, we'll start saying role. And let me go ahead after this, like this, and I'm gonna go ahead and say user, okay? I don't wanna actually change the system, but if you'd like to change the system to make it, give it different personality, inside of the array, enter another role and call it system. I'm just interested in the user only for right now, so we'll say, put a comma in here, and then the content of this, we'll say content, like that. And I don't want to actually hard coding it. Where would I like to get the content for the question itself? It's from this guy, input one. So it's a variable. So I'm going to come in here and we'll say input one. All right, I'm in pretty good shape. Let me put a comma in here. And the second thing is the model. So let me come in here and say model equal. And this guy, I know that we already deployed GPT-4o. That's good enough for me. And then once this is done, the only thing left is for me to return the completion. We'll say return completion dot choices, and I'll take the first one coming back, and dot message dot content. There you go. This guy. This is it. This is, notice we don't have any LLMs or anything. I've done everything in Python, and this will come in very handy later on when we do semantic kernel and when we do LangChain. I did not use them here. I'm just going against the Azure OpenAI connection that was given to me already when I started my project, okay? So the function will take two different things, alrighty? The input, which is the question itself, and then the connection in here. So look what happens at the bottom when I say validate and parse. It's not going to be only input one. So say validated. We'll see that I have a second parameter being passed in here. So hopefully this will be good. Yep, they are both in here. Alrighty. So I'm going to go to the value and I'm going to say get it from the Lino AI Hub, whatever OpenAI resource was given to me when I created my project. That's great. You might actually even have multiple ones if you created multiple ones. That's fine. And where is the input coming from? Remember, that's coming in from the input, right? So it will be inputs.question. Let's click on that. Now our graph is starting to form. All right, and let's go ahead and fix also the output. See, the output is still using the old echo. It's not. Is the new one is called direct LLM output. This is the one I want. So now my graph is perfect. I have my input, which will be my question. It will go straight into the Python that takes care of the connection and the LLM and instantiate everything. So there is no LLM here at all. I'm taking control of everything. At this one, I can do whatever I want inside of there. And then the output will be the content coming in from the response from the LLM itself in the code of the Python itself. All right, let me go ahead and save all of this. And now that the computer is running, why is the sky blue? Okay, so when I run this, the completion will take this question, pass it into my Python code, get the connection, do all the job that it needs to do, call it, and I'm expecting this to succeed and give us, hopefully, why is the sky blue? So give it a few seconds in here to initialize itself, and hopefully at the top in here will be green. No, failed. Let me see what I did wrong. Yes, indeed, you know. The named it GPT, not GOT. So sorry about that. So let's go ahead and fix this up, and we'll say save this again, and let's give it one more shot. Going once, going twice. I'm expecting, hopefully now, that we have the correct model in there, that this will be in the green at the top, and I can see the output, and it will hopefully read to me exactly why is the sky blue. I made another message. See, it says choice message. So if I can actually type, that would be awesome. See, there you go. Save. All right, going once, going twice. Hopefully this time it will not embarrass me. Yay, all right, finally in the green. All right, let's go ahead and see the output and exactly the rally scattering. It will explain why the sky is blue and everything in here, which is perfect. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a pretty quick video, but just to show you exactly what needs to be done if you would like to be in full control of what happens on the LLM side inside of your Python, instead of using an LLM node inside of your prompt flow. Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you'd like. And I'll see you again in the next one, which would be LangChain. All right.